I'd like to welcome everybody to the seventh day of the session, Wednesday, January 18th, 2023. I got this little book called, and I know you've all heard of it, On This Day in Wyoming History. And I thought it was fairly interesting. Today, in 1890, the U.S. Senate Committee on Territories recommends a bill to the Senate to make Wyoming a state. So, pretty cool, pretty cool. Yeah. Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
This is a convening roll call for the seventh day, January 18th, 2023. Alamand, Allred, Andrew, Angelos, Banks, Bear, Berger, Brown, Burkhart, Byron, Chadwick, Chestick, Clouston, Conrad, Crago, Davis, Eklund, Haroldson, Harshman, Heiner, Henderson, Hornock, Jennings, Knapp, Larson Lloyd, Larson JT, Lawley, Locke, Nyman, Newsom excused, Nicholas, Nemec, Northrop, Oakley, Obermuller, O'Hearn, Olson, Ottman, Pendergraft, Penn, Provenza, Rodriguez Williams,
Excused.
Sherwood, Singh, Slagle, Smith, Stiff, Storer, Strock, Stivar, Tarver, Trujillo, Walters, Ward, Washut, Western, Winter, Wiley, Yin, Zwanzer Dan, Zwanzer Dave, Speaker Summers,
Here.
Ottman, 61 present, two excused, excuse me.
Chief Clerk, I think we'll have another one.
Rodriguez
one's at the
Williams?
bar.
61 present, one excused.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Reverend Rick Veit of St. Mark's Episcopal Church for our prayer of the day. Please rise.
Today, I'd like to offer a collect for an amended collect from the 4th century. Let's pray. Almighty God, you have given us grace at this time with one accord to make our common supplication to you. And you have promised that when 2 or 3 are gathered together in your name, you will be in the midst of them. Fulfill now, O Lord, our desires and petitions as may be best for us and for the people of Wyoming, granting us in this world knowledge of your truth and inspiring us to take proper action, especially those in greatest need. We pray these things in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. House will please come to order. We'll do a couple of privileges, and then we have a special floor event today. So I'll kind of wait till everybody finds their seat. Sorry I cut us off a little early today. I was late starting. Just right before we get to privileges, just a note, the chief clerk reminded me of this really nice brochure you have. It's called the Practical Guide to House Floor Procedures. So in it, you'll have different motions and different scripts, and it can help you become more accustomed to what we're doing. Helps me, right? I got to have a script. So Chairman Burkhart, do you have a privilege?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Please.
Ladies and gentlemen, up in the back gallery, the West Gallery, we have visiting from Rollins, representing the Boys and Girls Club. We have Teresa Pacheco, the CEO, and Holly Nicholson, one of the board members.
Hey!
Holly, Teresa.
Minority Floor Leader Yen,
Mr. Speaker, privilege of the floor.
please.
Mr. Speaker, colleagues, today we have Edgar Ruiz in the South Gallery, the Director of Council of State Governments West, and Jonathan Lennertz, a policy analyst from Council of State Governments West. They are here for their annual state visit. Applause, thank you. So, just briefly, Council of State Governments West is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that serves Western state legislatures. So as a state legislature and a state government, we're a part of it. I'm currently the vice chair of the organization, and I'll serve as the chair in 2025, which means we'll have the opportunity to host the CSG West event in our state. The organization covers a whole bunch of committees, it convenes legislatures. One of the things that we participate in a lot is its Western Legislative Academy, which is available for members within their first 4 years of service. And they will be hosting a lunch on Thursday, 11 to 1 in room 108 on the first floor of the Capitol. So please attend. If you're interested in the legislative training, I very much encourage it, especially given how many new folks we have. Please visit with them. They'll be here, and they'll be here on Thursday to meet with you. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The leadership, I'll get to the other privileges in a second, but the Leadership Academy is, I think by everybody that's went to it, it's been really well received. And so, if you get an opportunity, if you wanna, you'll get an email. All those legislators that will be eligible for that will get an email from them. I would encourage you to, to seek that out if you're interested. Get a hold of somebody in leadership or however you look at that, and you'll need to get some recommendations and stuff, but I've heard it's a really good program. Representative Craigo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege of the floor.
Please.
If it's okay with you, I would echo your sentiments regarding the Leadership Academy. I did attend, and if anybody has any questions, you can ask me. It was a great experience, a great learning experience, and all of us should get to do it. It's just limited space.
How did the rest of you turn out?
With that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize one of my constituents from Buffalo, Jessica Corhut. She is a law enforcement officer with the BLM, and she's one of my favorite people up there in that area. Thank you.
Welcome to the House. Representative O'Hearn. Please.
We have up here in the West Gallery our Casper Boys and Girls Club. Master of Ceremonies of Everything, Ashley Bright. So I'd like to extend our recommendation for him.
Welcome to the house. We have the whole contingent of Boys and Girls Club, and they do a wonderful job in Wyoming. We'll have a floor presentation here in a minute. Chairman Harshman,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege of the floor.
please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, in your mailbox, I just wanted to, there's a book that's been delivered, and it's called The Wyoming Try. It's 12 short stories of Wyoming people. Unbelievable. And many of them will give you the goosebumps. I mean, I think when the young man from Casper came back, and I don't think I can say his name on here, but his last name begins with an S. Longest welcome home, he nearly died overseas. The longest welcome home went on for miles, miles and miles and miles. So many awesome stories in here. And I'd just like to recognize again, Ashley Bright is not only Casper, but all of central Wyoming into Converse County, Fremont County, and the work that is done from Boys and Girls Club. And you're going to be introduced to the Cundys and others, and the generosity. I mean, the philanthropy that goes into changing lives is really incredible. This guy there's certain people that just really changed the face of the state. And I just want to say it again, Ashley Bright is one of them, and all the people who have dedicated their lives to the Boys and Girls Club. We really appreciate you. So check this book out. This would be a good one to read before you doze off to sleep every night. It just really a blessing. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Clouston,
Mr. Speaker, privilege of the floor.
please.
Thank you. You know, I was at church last week with my wife, and Wyoming has a lot of things to be proud of and thankful for. And two of those things, I think we need to recognize two people that aren't with us today. But I saw a church full of number 17 jerseys, an adopted son of Wyoming, right, playing for the Buffalo Bills, and a native son of Wyoming, number 55, playing for the Bengals. And I was so impressed on how Wyoming, everyone gets behind those two young men that represent our state. And I just want to wish them best of luck coming up and let them know how proud we are of their lives and their accomplishments.
Yeah. Thank you. Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to announce that we have a card for Representative Pelkey, who was in my seat just before me, who's struggling with some health concerns. So I appreciate if you would sign that, let him know that you're thinking of him and that you're sending goodwill his way. I know he's done a lot of good work with folks in this room, and he would love to hear from you. So thank you. That'll be on Representative Sherwood's desk.
Thank you. A good reminder. Representative Pelkey was a joy to be around. With that, I think we're going to go right into our special presentation. And so this morning, we are joined by a few special guests of the Boys and Girls Club. Jay Butler is the president of the Boys and Girls Club of Douglas and the area council president for the Wyoming Boys and Girls Club. Jan Cundy is the national area council representative for Wyoming and Montana with the Boys and Girls Club of America, and Isabel Norris is a candidate for the Wyoming Youth of the Year Award and is from the Du Bois branch of the Boys and Girls Club of Central Wyoming. Fellow representatives, please help me welcome these special guests to the House. Privilege of the floor.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for all of your support with the Boys and Girls Club. As was announced, we have all of our CEOs and board members from 7 organizations are up in the gallery. Our Youth of the Year competition was yesterday, and it was announced in the rotunda today. And Esther Martin with the Cheyenne Club, please stand, Esther, is our Wyoming Youth of the Year. Esther's going to go on to represent Wyoming in the Southwest region, and I'm sure she's going to win the Southwest region. And then we'll go on to represent us, the Southwest region, on to national. She's a very special lady. She was also our Junior Youth of the Year in the past, so it's a very wonderful thing. In Wyoming, there are over 19,000 youth every day that go home without any guidance, stay at home, the latchkey kids. I'm happy to announce there's over 17,000 kids that go every day to the Boys and Girls Clubs across Wyoming. We feed over 250,000 meals a year, 190,000 snacks. We help with homework. We help with just care. As everybody knows, the mental health is an issue. Boys and Girls Club is the front line of the stories. People ask me, well, why do you dedicate so much time? I've been on the Boys and Girls Club board in Casper for almost 10 years. And I've been past National Area Council President, which Jay Butler from Douglas is now. I'm now on the national board, one of 22, and it's Montana and Wyoming that I represent. The lives that are changed, all you have to do is go to Youth of the Year speech and hear the stories. And I don't want to keep up too much of your time because we're really here to hear Isabel, who is a 15-year-old sophomore from Du Bois. And Isabel is going to give her Youth of the Year speech for us.
Thank you. A horse gallops with his lungs, perseveres with his heart, and wins with his character. I am always looking towards my future, but I'm so grateful for my past. It is what built me, and I wouldn't be who I am today without it. I faced many challenges in my 15 years. Before I was born, my mother suffered permanent brain damage from a nearly fatal car accident. My father's drug addiction tore our family apart, causing my parents to divorce before I was 2. When I was 7, my mother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and she was unable to get out of bed most days. Because of this, I've been the caregiver for my family. Most recently, she suffered a stroke, and she now faces a life-threatening surgery to repair the damage it has caused. This is a terrifying thought, especially because I lost my father right before Christmas due to carbon monoxide poisoning. Whenever I need support, I turn to the club. Whether it's a shoulder to cry on or a listening ear, caring club mentors are there to help me in any way they can. While some might turn to drugs and alcohol to deal with life challenges like these, the club has kept me focused on strengthening my character, including leadership and independence for the past 9 years. At home, I am the caregiver, but at the club, I receive the love and the support I need. The club helps me strive for what I want in life, and it challenges me to set goals for my future. I developed courage at the club through activities I never would have tried if club directors Lauren and Madison hadn't encouraged and believed in me. I would have never strived to be the first girl to the top of the Rockwell and Lander or jumped at the chance to ride at the front of the raft while rushing down the Snake River. Lauren and Madison guide me in taking the reins on the trail toward my future. I wouldn't be the person I am today without the leadership the club has given me. In addition to the club and my family, my horses lend me the wings I sometimes lack. These gentle creatures help me clear my mind so I can refocus on my responsibilities, like maintaining straight A's in school. I am also a student athlete on the varsity basketball, volleyball, and track teams, all while working for my family's outfitting business. It's amazing what you can learn from horses, and they've made such a difference in my life. My passion is working with animals, and I plan to become a veterinarian. My goal is to get my bachelor's at the University of Wyoming and then my doctorate in veterinary medicine. Through my personal experiences, the courage I've gained by being a club member, and my hard work, I know that I can achieve each and every one of my goals. Like Tessio said, I like a horse gallop with my lungs, persevere with my heart, and win with my character. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
And that's why we need to support the Boys and Girls Club. Thank you all.
Thank you. Just a second, I'll have you go right down through the alley here in just a second, but I just want to thank you for that great speech. What a heartwarming story, and you'll have great success, and we're very proud of you. You know, before all of the Boys and Girls Club folks leave, anybody associated with the Boys and Girls Club up there, please stand up. I just want to give one more round of applause to those folks. Kind of one other note, our doctor of the day is Dr. John Winter. Is he in the back? All right, let's give Dr. John Winter a hand. We're at that order of business of introduction, reading, and we got journal committee report first.
Your journal committee reports that the journal of January 17th, 2023 has been read and recommends that it be approved. Representatives Ward and Chestick.
Okay, now we are at that order of business of introduction, reading, and reference of bills. The first bill for our consideration is House Bill 113.
House Bill 113, sponsored by Representative Oakley.
First reading of the bill.
Judicial permissions to dismiss DUIs repeal.
House Bill 113 is referred to Committee Number 1, Judiciary. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 145.
House Bill 145, sponsored by Representative Washut.
First reading of the bill.
Disclosure of sensitive information, law enforcement.
House Bill 145 is referred to Committee Number 1, Judiciary. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 124.
House Bill 124, sponsored by Representative Summers.
First reading of the bill.
Electricity generation, taxation.
House Bill 124 is referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 148.
House Bill 148, sponsored by Representative Walters.
First reading of the bill.
Airport liquor licenses amendment.
House Bill 148 is referred to Committee Number 2 Appropriation. The next bill for our consideration is House Joint Resolution 4.
House Joint Resolution 4, sponsored by Representative Locke.
First reading of the bill.
Residential property cap amendment.
House Joint Resolution 4 is referred to Committee Number 3 Revenue. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 144.
House Bill 144, sponsored by Representative Strzok.
First reading of the bill.
Senior Citizen District Programs and Services.
House Bill 144 is referred to Committee Number 3 Revenue. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 150.
House Bill 150, sponsored by Representative Yin.
First reading of the bill.
Early Childhood Development Special Districts.
House Bill 150 is referred to Committee Number 4 Education. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 151.
House Bill 151, sponsored by Representative Yin.
First reading of the bill.
Property tax exemption, child care facilities.
House Bill 151 is referred to Committee Number 4 Education. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 130.
House Bill 130, sponsored by Representative Rodriguez Williams.
First reading of the bill.
Law enforcement, canine detection grants.
House Bill 130 is referred to Committee Number 5 Agriculture. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 138.
House Bill 138, sponsored by Representative Newsom.
First reading of the bill.
Suicide prevention.
House Bill 138 is referred to Committee Number 6 Travel. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 147.
House Bill 147, sponsored by Representative Provenza.
First reading of the bill.
Unlawful trespass signage, taking of wildlife.
House Bill Number 147 is referred to Committee Number 6 Travel. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 129.
House Bill 129, sponsored by Representative Stith.
First reading of the bill.
Wyoming Private Employees Retirement Savings Plan.
House Bill 129 is referred to Committee Number 7 Corporations. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 142.
House Bill 142, sponsored by Representative Western.
First reading of the bill.
Notice of annexation.
House Bill 142 is referred to Committee Number 7 Corporations. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 154.
House Bill 154, sponsored by Representative Banks.
First reading of the bill.
Permanent vehicle registration.
House Bill 154 is referred to Committee Number 8 Transportation. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 156.
House Bill 156, sponsored by Representative Locke.
First reading of the bill.
Voter identification limitations.
House Bill 156 is referred to Committee Number 8 Transportation. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 91.
House Bill 91, sponsored by Representatives Wanitzer Dan.
First reading of the bill.
News source shield law.
House Bill 91 is referred to Committee Number 9 Minerals. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 153.
House Bill 153, sponsored by Representative Wiley.
First reading of the bill.
Workers' compensation, competitive coverage.
House Bill 153 is referred to Committee Number 9 Minerals. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 143.
House Bill 143, sponsored by Representative Ward.
First reading of the bill.
Health mandates, CDC, and WHO jurisdiction in Wyoming.
House Bill 143 is referred to Committee Number 10 Labor. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 149.
House Bill 149, sponsored by Representatives Wanitzer Dan.
House Bill 149 is referred to Committee Number 10 Labor. All right, there he is. So just a reminder on really Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I'm going to try to get other members of leadership in the chair more often so we get some familiarity in the body with what goes on here. And so the good Speaker Pro Tem will be taking us through for a while. So thank you. I think I did have county commissioners, but I think they left. All right.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, our next order of business is reports from standing committees.
House Bill 41, sponsored by Transportation, lightweight trailers, permanent registration, an act relating to motor vehicles. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 8, Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs, to whom was referred House Bill 41, lightweight trailers, permanent registration. Respectfully report same back to the House with a recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes. Representatives Berger, Brown, Nemec, Obermueller, O'Hearn, Pendergraft, Smith, Stivar, Wiley. Representative Brown, Chairman. House Bill 71, sponsored by Representative Brown. Sales tax holiday, back to school. An act relating to sales and use taxes. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 3, Revenue, to whom was referred House Bill 71, sales tax holiday, back to school. Respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes. Representatives Baer, Harshman, Locke, Oakley, Zwanitzer. Noes. Representatives Byron, Northrup, Storer, Strzok. Representative Harshman, Chairman. House Bill 74, sponsored by Travel. Wyoming Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund, an act relating to state lands. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 6, Travel, Recreation, Wildlife, and Cultural Resources, to whom was referred House Bill 74, Wyoming Outdoor Recreation Trust Fund, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass with the following amendments. Ayes. Representatives Angelos, Burkhart, Byron, Larson, Storer, Western. Noes. Representative Singh, Winter. Excused, Representative Newsom. Representative Western, Chairman, Vice Chairman.
Thank you. I believe we may have a re-referral of House Bill 74. Majority Whip Western.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. I would like to re-refer House Bill 74 to Committee Number 2, Appropriations.
Thank you. House Bill 74 is re-referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. We are at that order of business of bills on second reading. The first bill for our consideration is House Bill 3.
House Bill 3, sponsored by corporations, State Assessment of Independent Power Producers, an act relating to ad valorem taxation.
House Bill 3, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration on second reading is House Bill 12.
House Bill 12, sponsored by Judiciary, Presumptive Child Support Amounts, Updated Tables, an act relating to child support.
House Bill 12, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration on second reading is House Bill 18.
House Bill 18, sponsored by Tribal, Missing Persons Alert Systems, an act relating to missing persons alert systems.
House Bill 18, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration on second reading is House Bill 31.
House Bill 31, sponsored by Education, BOCES as local education agencies, an act relating to education.
House Bill 31, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration on second reading is House Bill 47.
House Bill 47, sponsored by corporations, election equipment, federal certification, an act relating to elections.
We have an amendment. Representative Yen.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. So I move second reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 47 and ask for your favorable consideration. Members, this is something that I brought up during the discussion yesterday in House Bill 47 in our standing committee amendment. If you take a look on lines 33 and 34, it adds any other documentation that the Secretary of State may require by rule. So this actually conflicts with our subsection C in the same section. So in 2211-103C, it says the Secretary of State may from time to time as necessary promulgate rules and regulations consistent with subsection A. So adding another part makes it redundant, and also it comes into a little bit of conflict. All this does is just deletes that from our standing committee amendment. The Secretary of State still has all those powers that it already had. Ask for your favorable consideration.
Representative Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I looked at this amendment and I contacted the Secretary of State's office to find out why was this particular verbiage in there in the first amendment. And I was told that these are already in rules that they're operating by and have been for some time. So this is just codifying those rules. And the Secretary of State's office, I'm sorry, should not say that. The office which handles elections, the executive branch which handles elections, determined that this is just codifying what's already been in practice for quite some time. Thank you.
Question having been called, all those in favor of Representative Yen's proposed amendment to House Bill 47, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. I believe the ayes have it. Division having been called, all those in favor of the amendment, please stand. And those opposed? With 31 ayes, 23 noes, second reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 47 is adopted. We are back on the bill. All right. House Bill 47, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration on second reading is House Bill 62.
House Bill 62, sponsored by Minerals, Open Banking, an act relating to banking.
House Bill 62, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The next bill for our consideration on second reading is House Bill 69.
House Bill 69, sponsored by Representative Larson, coal-fired facility closures, litigation, funding, amendments, an act relating to the administration of government.
House Bill 69, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Oh, Representative Haraldson.
Mr. Speaker, Pro Tem, it's too soon right now, so.
Representative Brown.
No.
Chairman Brown. House Bill 69, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I would move Rule 7-3 on House Bill 73 to lay back House Bill 73 for one additional day.
The motion is to lay back House Bill 73 by one additional day. Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. All right. We are at that order of business of the third reading consent list. Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Chairman, I move the third reading consent list consisting of House Bill 42, House Bill 50, and House Bill 61.
Would anyone like any of the bills removed from the consent list? Representative Burkhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like Bill 61 removed. I have a technical amendment.
It's been removed.
House Bill 61 is removed from the consent list. Will the reading clerk read the bills on the consent list?
House Bill 42, sponsored by Transportation, off-road recreational vehicle operation, an act relating to motor vehicles being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. House Bill 50, sponsored by Minerals, solid waste cease and transfer program funding, an act relating to the prioritization of municipal solid waste facilities cease and transfer projects being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
Having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall these bills pass the House? The chief clerk will call the roll.
Elliman. Allred. Andrew. Andrew. Angelos. Banks. Bear. Berger. Brown. Brown. Burkhart. Byron. Chadwick. Chestick. Clauston. Conrad. Crago. Davis. Eklund. Haroldson. Harshman. Heiner. Henderson. Hornock. Jennings. Knapp. Larson Lloyd. Larson JT. Lawley. Locke. Nyman. Newsom, excused. Nicholas. Nemec. Northrup. Oakley. Obermueller. O'Hearn. Olson. Ottman. Pendergraft. Penn. Provenza. Rodriguez Williams. Sherwood. Singh. Slagle. Smith. Stiff.
Aye.
Storer. Strzok. Stivar. Tarver. Trujillo. Walters. Ward. Washut. Western. Winter. Wiley. Yin. Zwanitzer Dan. Zwanitzer Dave. Speaker Summers. Andrew. 61 aye, 1 excused. As for House Bill 42, are there any changes? Warnock? Aye to no. Slagle? Aye to no. Bear? Aye to no. Jennings? Aye to no. Stivar? Aye to no. Further changes? Closing vote. Vote closed. 56 aye, 5 no, 1 excused.
Having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, House Bills 42 and 50 have passed the House. Members, we are at that order of business of bills on third reading and final passage. First bill for our consideration is House Bill 61.
House Bill 61, sponsored by Minerals, source material associated with mining agreement, an act relating to environmental quality, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
We have an amendment. Representative Burkhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 61. Ask for your favorable consideration. Ladies and gentlemen, in reviewing the bill and the amendment, and if you remember, that was quite an extensive amendment, found a few column typographical errors. So on page 2, line 18, it's a tense to go from agreements to agreement. On page 8, line 8, to insert an in, the word in, that was accidentally deleted. And then on page 9, line 5, to insert the correct dates of 2026 and to 2027. That was in the amendment that was passed in committee and just didn't make it into the printed amendment. So I'd ask for your favorable consideration.
All right, all those in favor of third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 61, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The amendment is adopted. House Bill 61, having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? The chief clerk will call the roll.
Ellamand? Allred? Andrew? Angelos? Banks? Bear? Berger? Brown? Burkhart? Byron? Chadwick? Chestick? Plouston? Conrad? Crago? Davis? Eklund? Haroldson? Harshman? Heiner? Henderson? Hornock? Jennings? Knapp? Larson Lloyd? Larson JT? Lawley? Locke? Nyman? Newsom excused. Nicholas? Nemec? Northrop? Oakley? Obermueller? O'Hearn? Olson? Ottman? Pendergraft? Penn? Provenza? Rodriguez-Williams? Sherwood? Singh? Slagle? Smith? Stith?
Aye.
Storer? Strzok? Stivar? Tarver? Trujillo? Walters? Ward? Washut? Western?
Excuse.
Winter? Wiley? Yin? Swanser Dan? Swanser Dave? Speaker Summers?
Excused.
60 aye, 2 excused. Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any changes? Closing, vote closed. 60 aye, 2 excused.
House Bill 61, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, House Bill 61 has passed the House. We are now at that order of business on general file. Representative Wiley. No? Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I remove that the House resolve itself into the committee of the whole.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Representative Wiley. It's right there.
Will the committee of the whole please come to order?
second here. First bill for our consideration is House Bill,
Mr. Chairman.
recognize Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's going to be a slight change in your general file order. We'll go back through here, and one of them has been moved down a little bit farther here, so we're not worried about that. House Bill 14, 11, 26, 45, 44, and then we will go on to 7, 3, 65, 4, and then House Bill 24 will be right after House Bill number 4. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The first bill for consideration is House Bill 0014.
House Bill 14, sponsored by Judiciary, Civil Case Filing Fees Amendments, an act relating to courts. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 2, Appropriations, to whom was referred House Bill 14, Civil Case Filing Fees Amendments, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that do pass. Ayes, Representatives Henderson, Larson, Nicholas, Sherwood, Stith, Walters, Zwanitzer. Representative Nicholas, Chairman.
Chairman Washit.
Thank
For
you,
the reading
Mr.
of the bill.
Chairman. I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that Bill number House Bill 14 do pass, and I further move the adoption of the Standing Committee amendment and turn over the description of both the amendment and the bill to the good country lawyer from the central northern part of our state.
We can read in the Standing Committee amendment.
Mr. Speaker, your committee number 1, Judiciary, to whom was referred House Bill 14, Civil Case Filing Fees Amendments, respectfully report same back to the House with recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Chestick, Crago, Nemec, Oakley, Provenza, Washit. Noes, Representatives Harrelson, Jennings, Rodriguez. Representative Washit, Chairman.
Is there any discussion on the amendment? Representative Mr. Trego? Chairman, I do not believe there's an standing committee amendment on that bill.
Mr. Chairman, that is my mistake. So I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that House Bill 14 do pass. I turn over explanation of that bill to the good country lawyer from the central north of our state.
Thank you. Representative Crego. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So members, I bring to you House Bill 14 and ask for your favorable consideration. House Bill 14 is a joint Judiciary Committee bill that we worked through the interim, and it actually came to us from our district court clerks back home. It serves as an attempt to clean up some of the discrepancies that now exist in our statutes. If you look at the bill, you will see it deals with filing fees in civil cases. Right now, those fees are $120 for a filing fee, and that in our state, unlike other states, that actually encompasses more than just your filing fee. It encompasses fees for anything you would happen to file in that case, and it also grants you one certified order every time the judge signs one. Other cases actually charge for that, and they charge you for making additional filings beyond the complaint. The discrepancy arises, though, because our probate case filing fees are $160. Some years ago, when those fees were last raised, due to the way the statutes are drafted, there's two different statutes. There's one statute for probate filing fees, and then there's one for civil case filing fees. And the probate fees are found in 22401 if any of you want to look them up. But anyways, a couple years ago, when those were changed, due to the way those statutes are actually drafted and the language in them is not exactly the same, we ended up with different fees. And it really has to do, if you look within the text of the bill draft in front of you, it really has to do with the court automation fee and the indigent civil legal services fees. and how those are set up and delineated within the statutes. As we heard during committee, this difference in fees has created quite a few problems for our local clerks. For example, guardianships and conservatorships, those actions are found in the probate code, but are considered by many of the counties, and their local county attorneys have given the advice that those are actually civil actions, not probate actions. And so depending on which jurisdiction you're in, you could either pay $120 for one of those filing fees regarding a guardianship or conservatorship, or you could pay $160. Just depends on the jurisdiction. This bill is an attempt to fix that problem and keep our filing fees consistent across the state. This uniformity is important as we go forward with e-filing. Right now we have four courts that are using e-filing, and we're gonna, eventually within the next couple years, all of our counties will be to e-filing. And the system as it's set up isn't individual for each county because the filing fees are the same for every state. And so we need to make it clear in the statutes for every county, for every district court, that when you, for example, file for a guardianship or a conservatorship, that the fee's the same. And when this, let me go back a little bit on the historical part. The intent was always that both fees would be $160, but because of how it was drafted, it came out that one was $120 and one was $160. And like I said, this bill is an attempt to fix that problem. Mr. Chairman, again, I ask for your favorable consideration of this bill and would stand for any questions or discussion.
Thank you, Representative Craigo. Is there any question? Representative Hornick, sorry I didn't see you over there, even though you're tall enough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question on this. So we're raising all the fees to 160. Why not lower them down to 120? Lower everything down.
Thank you. Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I view fee increases as tax increases, and I think they're a bad idea. Thanks.
Are there any other questions? Representative Craigo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I can respond to a couple of those. We did discuss possibly lowering the fees to 120. One of the reasons we didn't, and this was the discussion and testimony in committee, is we're already one of the lowest filing fees around. And these filing fees do not go to the state. These filing fees go to our district court clerks. They help run our offices. And as it stands now, they put in the cost benefit of the 160 is way outweighed by the amount of work they put in on any particular civil case. Hours and hours and hours go into that. The filing fee is that is the least of the problem for litigants that end up in court. Paying lawyers is the biggest fee that is applicable when you decide to go to court. Again, these are not cases, for example, you have chosen at that point to go to court, to use the system. The defendant doesn't have to pay any fees. They didn't choose to go to court, but they get sued, for example, they end up in court. They don't pay the fees. The person who chooses to use the system pays the fee. And I think you'll hear probably a little bit of back and forth here on the floor about how the filing fee is the least of the problem, and that those who choose to go to court should have to help support the system that they're taking advantage of.
Representative Jennings.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I wasn't going to get up, but the good country lawyer caused me to. And I couldn't get the amendment on to lower the attorney's fees put into this one. It was not germane. But we'll try that another time. So years ago, members, the courts wanted this e-file, and we've put millions of dollars into that system, and it's up and running. And so I view that the clerks, they're very intelligent people, and the attorneys can understand that there's a difference in filing fees, but I'm not opposed to lowering them all and being consistent with 120. However, we weren't there. One of the things that was brought up is that other states charge more. Well, let's look at a couple of things with that. Wyoming's population is less by far, and we have way more money. I mean, we really do. Wyoming's flush at all of those levels. It's not something that you can say, well, the state to the south of us charges more. Good for them. If you like paying more, move south. And so I think it's fair to say that there are advantages to Wyoming. And then it was also brought up that the people who stand to benefit need to pay more for that opportunity. Perhaps, but what about the people that lose? The people that are drug in there? And so why do they, when they don't win, they get to pay more also? So on and against.
Representative Larson, did you have something to say?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just say that there wouldn't be a court filing fee for the person that lost, if that was brought in by virtue of the filing. I think, folks, as we talk about this bill, and there will be some other bills that talk about fees that come up. If I choose to file a civil suit against a good rancher from up in the northern part of the country, and I go in, I think I've been wronged, and I want to prove that, it's only done under a governmental court. It's something that we then have to say, well, how much responsibility do you have, Lloyd, if you want to do that to cover the cost of this? Or do you expect all your neighbors to cover the cost for what you want to do in your grievance? When we file this court fee, they're saying you have to bear part of that burden. If you want to do this, the court filing fee shouldn't be borne by the rest of you. It should be borne by me, because I feel that I'm in the right with this grievance. And you'll see that, you're going to see that on some other fees. And so a tax is when we as a body impose a requirement to pay something that that you didn't pick to do this. We're going to tax you for income or whatever else. But in this situation on this fee, I'm making the choice to do it, and I should bear some burden on that. So as we walk through some of these, I know that it's a close and it's a fine line, and just encourage you to think real closely about really how those fees versus taxes come into play and how we define them there a little bit. I encourage we support the bill and appreciate the good explanation that's taken place.
Representative Davis, would you like to say something?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As a businessman, I kind of have a different outlook on this. You know, filing fees, whether I like them or not, are a part of doing business in this great state. So thank you.
Chairman Olson, would you have something to say?
I sure do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I just wanted to, I'm on and for this bill, and I think most of what needs to be said has already been said. Just to reiterate, it's a pay to play, if you will. If you're not engaging in a lawsuit, you're not paying. And so that is significantly different from a tax with a redistribution of wealth where everybody pays for somebody else's benefit. Here, you simply pay to play in the game. But one thing that I think the body should be aware of is that there is a process for a litigant, if they are indigent, to submit an affidavit and request for waiver of their fees. And those are granted all the time in Wyoming. So if the fee is, the object of our court system is to never have a system that prohibits or limits access to justice. And so our fees remain considerably lower than other states for that reason. I think our good courts, I've heard testify over and over again, and I've heard testimony even from our Chief Justice that it is very important from their perspective that we do not limit access to justice. Raising this fee by $40 in no way could limit access to justice because, like I said, if you simply can't afford it, you can fill out a waiver and have the fee waived. So just on and for the the bill, and I hope that helps you in making your decision.
Chairman Waship, did you have something to say?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to emphasize this idea that a filing fee in court is not like a tax. It's more like a user fee, right? Where you pay a percentage of the total cost for that operation of government so that you can participate. Not a perfect analogy, but imagine going to a municipal golf course and you're going to play a round of golf. Should you ask the other taxpayers of your community to pay for you to go play that round of golf? Or should some of that cost be on you? You're the one getting to play the round of golf. And so when we go to court, we're asking the litigant, who might stand to receive a very large judgment in this proceeding, to pay a bigger chunk of the cost of the clerk of the district court to process all the paperwork that goes along with that civil action? Or would you prefer that your next door neighbor, who won't get a dime out of that lawsuit, be the one who has to pay more of the costs? That's what this bill's about. So I encourage an aye vote.
Representative Allman.
Mr. Chairman, $120 is a pay to play. So is $160. Either way, you're pay to play, whether it's $120 or $160. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm on and for the bill. One of the other issues concerning filing fees that I think you should consider is the fact that sometimes they can be a deterrent to frivolous lawsuits that can clog the system. Honestly, the lower they can be, it's great to have access to the system, but that can be abused. So that's one of the reasons I'm on for the bill. Thank you.
Representative Pinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've come from committee meetings where I've sat there and had a lot of people come up and give testimony and talk about how we need to do right to protect the victims and the poor in situations where, in my opinion, it isn't the proper role of government. In this particular issue, this, in my opinion, is the proper role of government to help aid the access of people to the courts. And so in this situation, I think we do have a duty to protect the victims and protect the poor. People who may not be asking, I mean, sure, they're suing, but they're suing because they feel like they've been a victim. And this is, in my opinion, a proper role of government to protect those people and facilitate that access.
Representative Jennings.
Well, at the risk of bringing all my fine lawyer friends back to the mic, and it seems to be a bunch of them, I hear that concept of pay to play, and the just former speaker is exactly right. This is a question, this is a governmental role. We're to help provide justice. All of our neighbors, we all agree that to do this, and so we should keep our fees as low as possible. And then I heard the kind of the notion inferred that because somebody might stand to win a lot of money, well, if we're going to follow that rationale, why don't we charge more once they stand the chance, or maybe put a little tax on the back end of that for them winning? It's kind of a slippery slope. Not vote your conscience, but feels an awful lot like tax.
Representative Pinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to confirm, I'm on and against this.
Representative Knapp, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would disagree that a fee is a tax. A fee is a purpose-driven cost by a user. However, an increase in a fee deserves justification. And all I've heard in this case is it's a matter of consistency. So $40 to some people is a lot of money to be able to take something to court. So I believe that I would keep the fee the same as the $120. And with e-filing, We've invested in a system that should bring relief to the clerks and actually reduce costs. So I would say, thank you.
Representative Banks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Normally, I would be adamantly against any kind of an increase. But because we're not going from $160 across the board to $200, instead, we're just leveling the playing field so that everything is on paper kosher. I believe that this is a good bill proposal. Because if we're in putting a tax on somebody and increasing people without their will, without their opinion, that's something different than what we're trying to accomplish here. This is, you get yourself into the situation and you understand that it's going to cost you money. And so I don't see this as a tax increase, but as a way to level the field for our district court clerks who work hard, and a ability to keep things at a level playing field is how I view this. Thank you.
Representative Craigo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with everyone that has stood up here and talked about access to justice. We all want access to justice, but these offices don't run for free. They don't run on $0 either. And to make sure they're open and running properly, we have to make sure that they're properly funded. That's what these fees go to. They don't, I just want to remind the body, they do not go to the state. They stay in our local counties and they actually help run those offices and keep the courtrooms open and functioning properly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask for an aye vote on the bill.
With no further discussion, question being called. And in favor, Chairman Washup, motion to the Committee of the Whole rise and report does so with the recommendation that the House bill. Can we call for a vote? All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. All those against? No. I do call, the ayes have it. Moving on. House Bill 14 has passed Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Chairman?
I'd like to recognize Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the Committee of the Whole rise for the purpose of going back and asking for any changes on House Bill number 50 and sit again as soon as that task is accomplished.
So members, this is to fix my mistake from earlier. We had the consent list, which included House Bill 50. And so for our first bill on the consent list, the chief clerk gave all of you the opportunity to change your votes from aye to no if you felt so inclined. However, I moved too quickly and you did not have the opportunity to change your vote from aye to no on House Bill 50 if you were to so choose. As a result, we've deprived people of the opportunity, if they wanted to object to House Bill 50, the opportunity to do so. You've heard the motion of the Majority Floor Leader to beg leave to rise and sit again. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Point of order. I'm just curious, are we
Mr. Brown.
rising to report? I don't know what the motion on the floor is, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Brown, what this is that we are able to, we're not rising and reporting. We are simply interrupting Committee of the Whole to allow to go back to finish some uncompleted business that was taken care of during first and second reading. Go ahead.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. That isn't allowed in Committee of the Whole. And so if we need to rise and report to leave Committee of the Whole, we can certainly do that and go back to third reading. But you can't substitute things into the middle of Committee of the Whole, according to our rules.
Representative, so Mention Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Chairman, I'd call for a Rules Committee to
Yeah.
discuss this. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Rules Committee will come to the front. The House will come to order. Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I withdraw my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. So a short explanation of that is on the giving people the opportunity to change their votes from aye to no on consent list bill, House Bill 50. Everyone has the right to do that. We will take that up after we complete committee of the whole. And the reason to do that then instead of now is that if we do it now, we would end up having 2 committee of the whole reports. So in order to have a smooth functioning of the House, my apologies for the delay. Representative Wiley.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. I hope everybody enjoyed the recess. The committee will come to a whole again. The next bill for our introduction is House Bill 11.
House Bill 11, sponsored by Judiciary. State Park Rangers Retirement, an act relating to retirement. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 1, Judiciary, to whom is referred House Bill 11, State Park Rangers Retirement, respectfully report same back to the House with a recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Chestick, Crago, Haroldson, Jennings, Nemec, Oakley, Provenza, Rodriguez-Williams, Washit. This bill was re-referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. Mr. Speaker, your Committee Number 2, Appropriations, to whom was referred House Bill 11, State Park Rangers Retirement, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Henderson, Larson, Nicholas, Sherwood, Stith, Walters, Zwanitzer. Representative Nicholas, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Washut?
I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with a recommendation that Bill number 11 do pass. And for a little explanation of the bill, I turn it over to our new member of the Judiciary standing at the front of the room.
Representative Nemec.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Good representatives, I bring you House Bill 11. What this does is give the option to our state park law enforcement officers to choose to get into the law enforcement retirement system from their current system. It does have a small physical note. There's only 5 officers that could choose this, and I stand for any questions.
Is there any further discussion on the bill? Well, Chairman Burkhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So looking at the effective date, it's effective immediately. So no amount of money has been paid into the retirement account for these people. And I imagine there are some who are qualified to retire. How is that covered in the bill?
Representative Nemec.
Mr. Representative, as far as I know right now from the testimony we received, only 1 officer was going to be doing that, and that's for future retirement. So the 4 folks that are already in that system are going to stay in the public employee system. I hope that answers your question.
Chairman Washut.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have 5 full-time park rangers, and they are complete peace officers certified the same way as any other law enforcement officer in the state. And of those 5, 4 of them will be transferring into the law enforcement retirement plan. And 1 of them will remain in the large public employee plan because of his individual circumstances, the number of years that he's been paying into that plan. It behooves him to remain and retire out of the large plan. What the proposal is before us is to move these other law enforcement officers out of the general plan, along with all sorts of other administrative and bureaucratic state employees, into a plan that more adequately and more accurately reflects their duties and responsibilities. When you ask folks why the state park rangers were not included in the law enforcement plan you kind of get a blank look. Everybody assumed that they would be. A few years ago, there was a move to make sure that they were covered by the death and disability portion of the retirement plan. And it was assumed at that point that that put them into the plan, but it did not. They have remained in the general state employment retirement plan. So what we're doing here is we're moving those 4 officers from the general plan to the state plan. The retirement system folks have participated in these discussions and worked out the details. I would just say that this is the retirement plan where these peace officers should be. And it's just a timely move that we finally get them there. I hope that explains the chairman's question.
Representative Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Functionally speaking, should a officer choose to switch plans, the assets they've paid into the public employee plan will move with them to the law enforcement plan. So they will have paid into a plan, their assets move with them. And so it doesn't matter if it's 2 members, 3 members, however many choose to move, their assets move with them from one plan to the other. So they will have paid into the plan.
Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so the $5,000 appropriation is just the offset from the one plan to the other with, I think it was about a 5% change on one of the payouts. So we're not obviously starting any new plans. This is just a transfer across, and the 5,000 will offset the difference that it is. And then any law enforcement officers in the Park Service from this point forward would have the opportunity to, from beginning of employment, go into that retirement plan.
Question being called in favor of Chairman Washup's motion. House Bill 11, can we call for ayes? All those opposed? House Bill 11 passes committee of the whole. Next bill for consideration. House Bill 26.
House Bill 26, sponsored by School Facilities. School Facilities Appropriations. An act relating to appropriations for K-12 school facilities. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 2 appropriations, to whom was referred House Bill 26, School Facilities Appropriations. Respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Henderson, Larson, Nicholas, Sherwood, Stith, Walters, Zwanitzer. Representative Nicholas, Chairman.
Heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Nicholas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move in the committee whole rise and report. It does so with the recommendation that House Bill 26 do pass. Now I will turn the explanation of the bill over to the Select Committee on Capital Finance. Who would that be? School facility. Landon Brown. Actually, Landon just stepped out. Do we have a vice chair of that committee? Tom, go ahead. Tom, to the good representative from Casper.
Representative Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What House Bill 26 does, as the Select Committee for School Facilities brings it to you today, is it simply allows for the ability for the appropriations to go from planning and design straight into construction. And in doing so, it could save as much as 1 year to 2 years on these projects, which in any inflationary environment, which is always occurring, it will save money overall for the state. Again, I want to say this allows the opportunity. It is not a requirement. It is not a guarantee that that will take place. It simply allows for that to be a possibility when these projects come forward, to consider the appropriation amount to be for planning, design, and construction, as opposed to the way it operates today, which is planning, and then a year later you get your and design, and then a year later you get your construction dollars. So it's an efficiency model. Again, it's a may in here, so it's not a mandatory, and it just allows for greater efficiency and hopefully save the state some money. I ask for your aye vote on House Bill 26.
Question being called. All those in favor of Chairman Nicholas' motion, when the committee of the whole rises to report, it does so with the recommendation that the House bill does pass. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. House Bill 26 has passed committee of the whole. The next bill for consideration is House Bill 45. Please
House
read.
Bill 45, sponsored by Transportation, Peace Officer Retirement and Rehiring, an act relating to administration of government. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 8, Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs, to whom is referred House Bill 45, Peace Officer Retirement and Rehiring, respectfully report same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes. Representatives Berger, Brown, Nemec, Obermueller, O'Hearn, Pendergraft, Smith, Stivar, Wiley. Representative Brown, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the committee of the whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that House Bill 45 do pass. And I do not believe we have any amendments, so I will turn the explanation of the bill over to our new member of Transportation, standing at the front of the room.
Representative Nemec. All right, Representative Nemec.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring forth House Bill 45, another pro-law enforcement bill. This one allows Wyoming Highway Patrol to rehire retired members, as well as removes the mandatory retirement age is 65. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I stand for questions.
Representative Western.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you could just elaborate on the retirement component. Are these ones they're bringing out of retirement? Are they over the age of 65? And or if they're over the age of 65, are they going to be on the road patrolling? Or are they hiring them back for administrative roles? Or could you elaborate a little bit, please?
Thank you. Yes, they could be hired for.
Representative Nemec. Representative Nemec.
Mr. Chairman, yes, they can be hired for training as well as on the road if they so choose.
Representative Knapp.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I understand the need for this bill. In testimony this morning, we heard that there was 51 vacancies in Highway Patrol alone, so I understand the need for it. My question is, when they're rehired back, do the officers come back in their same band and range for pay, or are they hired back at a lower band? Thank you.
Chairman Burkhart.
So I guess my question's even more basic than the previous representatives, which is, why do we need this? They already have a retirement. What's the purpose?
Representative Nemec.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the purpose of this is to try and ease those open positions so the Highway Patrol can bring these folks back and perform law enforcement functions.
Representative O'Hearn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to answer the great representative from Campbell County, yes, it's a skill set. We're 51 officers short. They come back at the same rate that they left. They still receive their retirement. They no longer can benefit from added retirement benefits. So if they're making X when they retire at 41 or 51 years old, they come back. that retirement will never increase. But they will have to pay, the employer and the employee pays into that retirement account, so it's all fully funded. They come back, it's a skill set, it's for morale. It's for hiring and keeping a good officer on the road. He does have to pass a physical fitness test to make sure he can still maintain and do all the jobs that are necessary for the job that he's rehired for. Thank you.
Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So ladies and gentlemen, what this bill does in a nutshell, there's a couple of components to it. The number one thing that we're focusing on is the rehiring. So let's take a real life example. Let's say you're 21 years old, you decide you want to go be a law enforcement officer, you get hired on by the Wyoming Highway Patrol. You get hired on by the Wyoming Highway Patrol, you go on for 20 years, you retire. You decide that you're going to retire and you go home and you realize, man, I really hate retirement. I want to go back. Well, right now, the way the statute reads, you can't be rehired by the Wyoming Highway Patrol. Now, the interesting thing about this is you can actually go be rehired by another law enforcement agency because they're in two different categories within our retirement system. So what we're trying to do with this bill is actually combine the two retirement systems and say, well, we're not doing that. I apologize. That's the wrong way to look at it. What we're doing is we're creating the same rules for both retirement systems. So if you are a local law enforcement officer and you're 21 and you retire after 20 years, you can be rehired at your local law enforcement agency. We're trying to do the same thing for the State Highway Patrol. So they sent out a survey to some of their retirees that were eligible for this, and they said, hey, if we were to authorize this, how many of you would be interested in coming back? And there's a handful, right? So it's probably not gonna be a huge portion of this, but there is gonna be a few of these that people come out and they say, hey, look, I've tried retirement, it's not my deal. I'd like to come back and work on the road. Well, then the next question that was raised in committee was, well, maybe they're not fit to do this. Are we just going to rehire somebody that just wants to come back? The answer is no. They have to come through and they have to do their physical testing. They have to make sure that they meet the physical requirements and everything else that goes in line with being hired back on as a trooper in any other way. So this is a fairly simple bill to that portion. And what we're trying to do is just authorize the State Highway Patrol the same opportunities that we offer local law enforcement agencies and rehiring retirees. The other thing that's really, really, really important I want to draw your attention to is on the last page of this bill on line 12, and it's the repealer. And the repealer, for the new members, these are kind of sneaky, right? If you're reading the bill and you don't look at these, you want to make sure you understand what repealers are doing, because we're literally going in and striking out a chunk of law that is just no longer going to be there. So what does this repealer do? This repealer removes the requirement that at age 65, you must retire from the Wyoming Highway Patrol. Why would we want to do that? Same exact reason. We have people that are well within their capabilities to still continue their fit processing. They're still capable of maintaining everything that they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And they are the ones that say, hey, look, I want to continue serving, but you're telling me I can't. We don't have a mandatory retirement age anywhere else inside of our statutes except for judges. That's it. That's the only other place that we require a public employee to take a mandatory retirement. So we're just trying to level that playing field as well. So at the end of the day, this is a fairly simple bill. I see a couple people coming up to the mic, and so I'd like to let them have some questions, Mr. Chairman, but ultimately, this is a morale booster, as it was stated, but it's also a little bit more of an equitability prospect across the way. So I'll stand for questions.
Speaker Pro Tem Stith.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. A question for the representatives from District 60 or District 9 or anyone else. If I understand this, if I'm a trooper and I joined the force when I was 21, now I'm 42 years old, I've got more than 20 years in, I got a raise of 7.9% last year, but I'm still way lagging. I'm really unhappy about my pay, and my conditions of my employment are a little difficult, especially in January and February. Can I then retire, spend 30 days at home, because there are 58 vacancies in the department, I get rehired a month later, and under 9-3-415G, which is incorporated into this bill, I then collect my retirement. which might be 60% of my wage, so effectively I give myself a 60% pay increase. Is that what this does, or does this not do that? I'm just trying to read how this bill interrelates with 9-3-415G. Thank you.
Representative Heiner?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the good Speaker Pro Temp may have answered my question right there, but in the fiscal impact, it says there is a potential for accelerated retirements and increased disability. So I would like clarification of that as well. Thank you.
Representative Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The bill specifies that the Wyoming retirement system would not suspend the retired member's annuity if rehired. So it sounds like you could retire, get your annuity or your retirement payments, get rehired, and still be paid as if you're retired. So maybe I don't understand that, but I'd like that clarified.
Chairman Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the answer to I believe the same question twice there from the first and the third speaker is, if I was 42 years old and I retire and I go ahead and I retire and I start collecting that paycheck from retirement, and then I choose after 30 days I want to come back into the force, can I still collect my retirement while I'm also going back to work? And the answer is yes. The answer is a flat out yes. Now the kicker is, that retirement that you're receiving does not change. It stays as is in perpetuity, as that annuity, as it was called, as the annuity stays there. Now, the interesting thing beyond that is this is also I don't want to call it necessarily a detriment, but this is an opportunity for the State Highway Patrol to say, if we're going to do this, it's actually going to cost us more money, because the employee who comes back would also not be emptying any money out of their paycheck into the retirement system. It would be a requirement of YDOT to pay both the employer and the employee contribution into the retirement account to make sure that we're still flush with that. Okay, so that actually comes out of their paycheck, out of their 100 series funding when they come into budgeting. It's not going to be a huge influx of people retiring and coming back. The other thing that's really important to know on this is that you cannot collect at age 41. You can't collect until you're 50 years old in the peace officer retirement. So you're going to have some people that may retire, but they're not going to be able to start collecting until they're 50 years old. But if they retire and then they come back in, their retirement that they originally signed up for does not change and does not have any effect on this at all. Now, I do apologize. I was being asked another question sidebar when the second speaker came up. And so if I could have the good representative from the west side of the state repeat his question, I'd be more than happy to try to answer that as well.
Representative Heiner?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I live on the west side of the state, so I guess I'll repeat my question. In the financial impact, fiscal impact, it states that there is a potential for accelerated retirements and increased disabilities. And I don't know if the Speaker Pro Temp answered that, or if you've answered that already, but that clarification, I just want to understand that. Thank you.
Chairman Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure how we would have anything accelerated retirements. We did have the Wyoming retirement system there. I see my good CPA friend coming to the potential rescue here and might have a better answer on this, but I'm not sure how we would ultimately have that, but I will also allow the CPA from the center part of the state to maybe weigh in on this.
Representative Obermuller?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm not sure about the disability part of it. I can't address that, but the accelerated retirements is the idea that now you'll be incentivized to retire at age 50, continue to work, but be able to draw basically your paycheck for working and the paycheck for your retirement. So the concern is that double dipping sound of that. I would say this about I would roll this back to the point of this, which is the desperation in trying to get some of these former officers to come back and participate. So let's say you're that former officer and you come back and you say, we're gonna hire you back at your other salary, but oh, by the way, you can't get your retirement anymore. What we want to do is take you out of retirement, stop your retirement payment, and just pay your regular salary. Now, does that sound good to you if you're in that position? To incentivize people to come back in, which is the problem we're trying to solve, we're saying, please come back in. You can continue on the program that you're currently on, and we'll pay you to be active again. That's the whole point of this, is to try to bring these guys back. So on and in favor of things.
Representative Heiner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a thought. I want to argue both sides of this story. If this trooper should retire early and collect his annuities and for the rest of his life, hopefully it's a long life, but then he went to the local hardware store and picked up a job. I won't name that store, but he would be able to collect both wages at the hardware store and his annuity. So arguing both sides of the story, what's the difference? For this way, he not only collects his annuity, but he's helping the state in a career which he more than likely excelled at. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
With question being called, all those in favor of Chairman Brown's motion that when the committee of the whole rises to report, it does so with the recommendation the House bill do pass. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. House Bill 45 has passed committee of the whole. The next bill for consideration is House Bill 44. Will the reading clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 44, sponsored by Transportation, Road and Bridge Construction, Alternative Contracting, an act relating to highways. Mr. Speaker, your committee number 8, Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs, to whom was referred House Bill 44, Road and Bridge Construction, Alternative Contracting. Respectful report, same back to the House with the recommendation that it do pass. Ayes, Representatives Berger, Brown, Nemec, Obermuller, O'Hearn, Pendergraft, Smith, Wiley. Noes, Representative Stivar. Representative Brown, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Chairman Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the committee of the whole rises to report, it do so with recommendation that House Bill 44 do pass. We do not have any standing committee amendments, and I will explain this bill, and I'll try to do it as simply as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a department that oversees construction in this state that does not do horizontal work, and horizontal would be your roads. They have vertical construction, and they handle all the buildings and everything that's out there. And so the majority of our processes for building are in a process called design bid build. So they put it out, they have the local, our state employees will typically design something, then they'll send it out for bid. They have multiple bids put in, then they have to go through the process of interviewing, make sure that the bids look good, and then it goes out to the contractor to build. Well, the people who do horizontal work only have that opportunity. So when you're building a road, that is the only way we can do construction for our roads in this state. But we have found in other portions of our government that there are other opportunities that really work well and can actually be a cost savings and a time savings for us to have design build, where you'll hire a contractor and that contractor will be in a situation where they say, hey, look, we've got a team that can come in and do this. We know what we can design quicker. We've been working out in these muddy areas here around this bridge, and we've done things like this upstream a couple of different times. We can design the bridge for you, and we can build it faster than what it would cost for you guys to design it, then to send it out to bid and do all this extra work. So what this bill is actually trying to do is give the exact same authority that we allow the construction department of the state with that opportunity to look at other different ways of doing construction, and we're going to grant that authority over to the Wyoming Department of Transportation. That's all this bill is doing, is just offering that availability for these contracting methods to come up and allow the Wyoming Department of Transportation to work on this. Now, The first question that came to my mind, and I think just about everybody else in this room, was, okay, what happens if our state contractors don't get chosen and we go outside and we start looking at this design build and somebody from a neighboring state comes in and they start stealing all of our work? Well, I can tell you that the contractors that we heard from in committee are in full support of this. The likelihood of this particular opportunity being used on all these projects is very minimal. The vast majority of our projects are going to still be design, bid, build because they recognize that that's the most efficient way for most projects. But we have an interchange just about a mile and a half here to the west, northwest of us here, that is a massive project. When I came into the legislature, we were looking at a budget price of about $275 million. We heard in testimony yesterday that that's well over $400 million now to do that same exact project. Well, if we do the design, bid, build, I'll be honest with you, I don't think we have the staff within our Department of Transportation that can design an entire interchange the way that this interchange is going to have to be redesigned. So this is allowing those types of projects that are just very, very large in nature to go out and have an engineering firm actually design this for us. And they can do it at a cheaper rate than what it would cost for some of our engineers in-house to be able to do that. And I don't think we want to see anybody coming into appropriations asking, YDOT coming in and asking appropriations for 4 more engineers just to study one area. We don't want to see that. We want to see it done more efficiently and more effectively. So we're going to ask for the private sector to do this. So that's what this bill does in a nutshell. If there is any questions, I'd love to hear any questions. But ultimately, this is an authority being granted to the Department of Transportation that already exists in other state government. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll stand for any questions.
Representative, please. Hornock, Representative Hornock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will say that there are efficiencies that can be gained by different delivery methods. I just want to know if this has been practiced in other states. All states build road and bridge construction work. Has this been practiced in other states? Have they found efficiencies through this method? Thank you.
Chairman Brown. Oh, sorry, Representative Stivar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's one of the reasons I voted no. I've worked with the state south of us, to the west of us, on big design build projects. They leave out so many other portions of stuff. From what I've seen and worked with, the cost just keeps going up higher and higher and higher. That's why I voted no.
Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. So great question. And unfortunately, I don't think that we have anything but anecdotal stories coming from this body. But what I can tell you that we did hear, there are some very definitive answers. And we are actually one of the last states to offer these opportunities. So there's a lot of different opportunities. And if you're interested, I can certainly provide you the same handout that we got yesterday in committee. There is potential cost savings, and yes, there are other states that do this. Specifically, the biggest one that was mentioned to us yesterday is the state directly to our east. And we actually have some Wyoming contractors that have worked in this process with the state to the east. They've crossed over the border and they've done the work over there. A couple other things that I did forget to mention. Wyoming contractors still receive their preference, right? We still have that 5% preference on there. And then another thing that is really important to mention is we're not giving authority away for YDOT to go do whatever they want to do. We have a very unique situation, and not to get into the weeds with this, but the Wyoming Department has a commission that actually lets these contracts out, and they would still have oversight of every single thing that's going to go down through this. So we have 2 bodies that would be overseeing any contracts that would come through this. And I think we can all rest assured that we're not going to have this body and or the commission not be in a situation where we're unhappy and let it continue to happen. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question to the bringer of the bill is, are we setting up a situation here where we're not getting bids, where potentially we're going to have what I would call crony capitalism, where we have a relationship between our executive or this particular branch and particular contractors where the bids are continuing, or what would be a bid process has gone away, and we're continually going with the same contractor, potentially creating a situation where other contractors are not able to compete.
Representative Larson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we reworked all of the construction statutes here a couple of years ago, we were addressing some of the concerns that was just brought up by the good speaker in talking about making sure and ensuring that these public contracts go out. In fact, we have a limit on, I think anything over $50,000 or $150,000 has to go out to bid. Doesn't matter if it's design bid or design build or CMAR, but those are three areas that we have an opportunity to look at when we're building using state funds. And it just depends on the project to do a design bid build, as we would allow here. It's not required, but as they look at that, they might find that it's cheaper and to get it out sooner. And we've been using that and put that into these statutes at the recommendation a few years ago of the Department of Construction and the community colleges, and as we've worked on these buildings around there to have some options available, but yet as those are evaluated by the governing bodies, they still have to go out to bid. They still have to have residential preference, but it gives some flexibility in the delivery method.
Representative Obermuller?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The question about the cronyism and special treatment, when this came to committee, I was concerned about those things too and how it would affect the local contractors. This was actually my area of specialization in my working life. I specialized in the construction industry. I was a no on this vote for those kind of reasons when it came through the interim. But I went home and I called all my friends in the business and what they thought of this. I couldn't find anybody who was against this idea. I ran this up a flag and literally could find no one to oppose it that wanted to oppose it. They all recognized that we had to have this alternative way. And in terms of the policing of how that works, I'll tell you who polices that, and that's that association that does represent contractors. Their membership police those kind of things very carefully as to if they think that the department is stepping out of line. So I personally am not worried about that aspect of this, and I'm changing my vote to yes. Thank you.
Representative O'Hearn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What the last two speakers have mentioned, there's a commission that oversees every project. If you look on page 3, line 20, this is primarily for the construction for emergency repair. If anybody's gone out and had a request for bid, it takes a whole lot of time to put a request for bid together. You have to be bonded to put in a bid, which costs a lot of money depending on the size of the project. And then as the time goes past, cost of materials go up, and the materials and the roads are not used for that amount of time. So it's primarily used for emergency road construction. Vote aye.
Representative Chesik?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the bill, I'm not sure if I'm for or against it yet. I'm still learning. I'm concerned about whether this creates a situation where we're not getting the best value as a state. And the reason I worry about that, the design bid build is the normal process. We're cutting out the bid process here, going to design build. The bid function serves a legitimate function to make sure that we get the best price. Now, I understand that during times of high inflation like we're in right now, the bid phase takes a while, slows things down, prices go up, we lose money. So I understand that that is a risk, but in normal times when inflation is not as rapid, or in times of deflation, the bid process can save us money, make sure we get the lowest responsible bidder for a project. What guardrails do we have, or what assurances do we have that
this special design build thing is not going to be used improperly, and that the bid phase will be used when when it seems to have an opportunity to save us money by going with the lowest bidder.
Representative Locke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm really just following up with the previous speaker on this, just for clarification on the process. So that's exactly right. This design, bid, build. This sounds like this design and build. So where is the bid process in that? Is there it wasn't clear to me what that oversight component was to make sure that there's an appropriate, that piece is handled in some reasonable way. Thank you.
Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Once again, I find myself really torn, but this is my business. This is what I do. And when I go to look at a project and my client wants a bid, and I sit down with that bid, number one, that takes me a considerable amount of time to go do that, and I've got to try to think of every possible contingency and make some allowance inside. Essentially, what happens is I bid for the worst case scenario. I bid that things are going to be delayed. I bid that, and the bid goes up and up and up. As a fiscal conservative, I want to be this to be done as efficiently as possible. From where I stand, having done what I have done, I have been more efficient, frankly, without a bid. And I know a lot of you don't want to hear that. The other thing is that there are industry standards, there are comparisons. As soon as one contractor begins to get a little bit out of line, I think everybody knows what that is. So for what it's worth, the idea of a bid doesn't necessarily do what we might think it does, and often drives the cost up. If I finish that job and I have bid it high to cover my tail, and it's all said and done, my company turns around and just bills it out at what it cost us. A lot of less scrupulous companies will say, hey, you know what, we bid it at this, they accepted it, just did it. So there's a little bit of both sides in that. I just wanted to add some information. Thank you.
Chairman Brown.
Thank you. I'm hoping to put a little bow on this and wrap it up for you, Mr. Chairman. So to answer the two questions that came simultaneously there, what assurances do we have that this is going to be done in the correct way? And ultimately, I can do it with one word, and that's the commission, right? The commission is actually the ones who cut the check. We do not cut the check out of this body for construction projects. We do not have that authority. What we have done is we've delegated that authority over to the Department of Transportation's commission. And so you have a commission of members that is appointed by, I don't even know how many members there are on there. I'd have to go back and look, but they're the ones that are going to review all this. They're the ones that are looking at every single piece of this. And I can assure you, after reviewing the minutes from the last meeting, they take a considerable amount of time reviewing individual contracts. Now, the interesting thing about this is one of those areas that I heard from my good vice chair that brought this up is the majority of cases are not going to use anything beyond the delivery method of design, bid, build. That's our status quo. If you go look at the construction department that handles all the other vertical stuff in the state, that's what they use the majority of the time as well, okay? Very rarely do they come out and use any of these others. Now, there's been a focus on design build, but there are many others. So I brought up a couple of these others here to make sure that everybody has an understanding. We have general contractor construction manager at risk. Well, what's that? That's a design consultation, involves a construction manager from the very beginning. They handle pretty much everything. That's one option. We also have the design build. Outside of that, we have what they call multi-prime. This is where the state or a consultant becomes basically a general contractor, but they're liable for any of the errors because we're the ones that say that we know what's going on. Well, we may not want to do that. It's an option, but we may not want to do it. We also have what's called the IDIQ. Not one that YDOT was interested in utilizing right away, but it's an option on the table as well. What I think the most important portion of this discussion is if you have belief that the way that state building has been going on, when this body has appropriated money and we have designed buildings and we've allowed construction to happen with vertical, and we've said we trust that commission, because there's a commission there as well, we trust that commission to do these projects. This is doing the exact same authority to allow our roads and our construction to do this. The majority of these issues are also going to be emergency in nature. So a couple of years ago, we had a pretty big flood up in the Lusk area, and the Tigers were cut off. They couldn't travel north out of their area because a bridge washed out. Underneath current rules and underneath current statute, the Wyoming Department of Transportation was not able to go out and have that bridge rebuilt without going design, then a bid, and then a build. The Tigers wanted to go play. They wanted to get to their next championship game, but they couldn't, except they had emergency authorization to make sure that we got these things taken care of. We don't want to have to go through that emergency authorization project again. This is just in an effort to make sure that if that happens again, they can go to design build and get that contractor up and running and get those Tigers ready to roll. So I'll stand for any more questions, but it looks like we're good, so I'd call for the question.
Question being called. All those in favor of Chairman Brown motion that when the committee of the whole rises to report, it does so with the recommendation that House Bill 44 do pass. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman?
I would like to recognize the majority floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the committee of the whole rise to sit again at 2:15.
Committee announcements. Chairman Burkhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your committee number 9, Minerals, will meet Friday morning at 8 a.m. to consider 3 bills, House Bill 136, House Bill 91, House Bill 153, and specifics will follow in further announcements.
Chairman Northrup.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your committee number 4, Education, will meet at like 12:15 in EO03. We're going to be doing House Bill 34, School Finance Mental Health Services, and House Bill 32, Education Mill Levy Adjustments.
Chairman Olson.
Oh, I said 12:30 is what I meant. 12:30.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your committee number 7, House Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, will meet immediately upon adjournment. Members, grab something to eat quickly and get to the committee room, because we do have several bills to hear. House Bill 86, Disclosure of Private Cryptographic Keys, House Bill 49, Municipal Nonpartisan Ranked Choice Elections, and House Bill 63, Vacancies in Elected Office, and we will be meeting in EO05.
I've heard the recommendation of the majority floor leader. I recommend stand in recess until 2 p.m. All those in favor say aye. 2:15. All those opposed? Oh.
Mr. Chairman.
No, we have one more. Chairman.
Thank you. Your House Appropriations will meet in 5 minutes, and we're meeting in room W113. We will hear House Bill 51 and House Bill 2. We also have 4 re-referrals, which include House Bill 30. We'll do that one first, along with House Bill 109, because they tend to parallel. And then House Bill 81 and House Bill 93. And then tomorrow at 8 o'clock, your joint appropriations will meet at 8 a.m. And it's a working meeting just to walk through and review the supplemental budget, the first draft that just came out. And we'll have further announcements this evening.
Stand in recess until 2:15.